Shortly after finding out I was pregnant in May of 2021, I started doing my research and decided I wanted to try an unmedicated birth. I purchased the Mommy Labor Nurse birthing course at 26 weeks to help me prepare. My husband and I started watching the videos. We didn't get too far, but we got to the part where she recommended the importance of kick counting starting at 28 weeks. She recommended the Count the Kicks app, and I downloaded it. At my 28-week appointment, everything was normal. I remember walking into the exam room and telling the nurse I was ready to start my kick counts, but she looked at me and told me, "We don't start kick counts until 30 weeks." I went home that day and started my kick counts with the app anyway. I learned Henri's patterns, and I could usually get 10 movements within 20 minutes. When I was 29 weeks and 3 days pregnant, I noticed Henri wasn't moving as much, but his movements were still strong, and he was still reaching 10 movements, but it took longer than usual. The next day, I woke up at 6 a.m. to a faint kick and then fell back asleep. I officially started my day around 8 a.m., and about an hour later, I noticed Henri had not moved yet. I searched Google and started doing everything suggested to get him to move. I hesitated to call my OBGYN because I was afraid they would dismiss my concerns. By late afternoon, I had an overwhelmingly bad feeling and called my OBGYN. The nurse called me back a couple of minutes later, and I explained that I was 29 weeks and 4 days pregnant. I told them I had been tracking my baby's movements and couldn't get him to move no matter what I did. She told me I needed to get to the hospital immediately. The drive to the hospital was the longest 25 minutes of my life. As soon as I got there, they took me back and hooked me up to monitors, and I was relieved to find out that he had a heartbeat. Shortly after, it became clear that Henri was not doing well. A doctor told me he had lost all heart rate variability and his heart rate was dipping when I had mild contractions. They decided to do a biophysical profile, and he scored a 2 out of 8 with only his fluid levels being okay. After that, they told me Henri was in distress and they needed to get him out, and they prepped me for an urgent C-section. Henri was born at 11:15 p.m., weighing 2 pounds and 14 ounces. He let out one cry and was taken by the NICU team, where he stayed for the next 7.5 weeks. They were unable to ever determine what caused Henri to be in distress. Every time I shared my story, I was praised for knowing my baby's movements so well. I was told again and again that by tracking his movements, I saved his life. In hindsight, I should have called the doctor's office sooner, but I knew to call because I had been tracking him for almost 2 weeks. The response from the nurse at my provider's office during my 28-week appointment highlights the need for standard education and protocols for healthcare professionals to follow. UmpDAT can help make this happen. Count the Kicks saved my son's life. It gave me the tools and data I needed to advocate for myself and for my baby. I don't want to imagine what could have happened if I had not started counting at 28 weeks like my childbirth course had recommended. Every mom, every family in North Carolina deserves to have the same information that I was lucky enough to find in my own research. Every provider also deserves to have the training and resources needed to improve outcomes for their patients. Henri is proof that prevention saves lives, but there are solutions to the stillbirth crisis in North Carolina. This is why we need the Bump Act to become law.